Hi Siri, I'm looking for a new podcast, one that preferably is hosted by a UF Hall of Famer, one that airs every weekday that would bring me everything I need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions. Siri, is there such a show?
Have you heard of PodUp with Matthews in the morning on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or any podcast platform?
Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? UF Hall of Famer Shane Matthews has a show every weekday. I'm gonna go check it out tomorrow. Thanks, Siri.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We'll have JC, we'll have Mike Morgan from the SEC Network join us as well. If you missed it last night, the Mavericks had a chance to sweep. There will be another game against the T-Wolves to see who plays the Boston Celtics. We had a little hockey going on. Not a lot of other stuff going on. JC, you're on the Titan More hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. What's happening?
Well, it looks like we've got another 10 days of just hot, dry weather, which I love.
JC, it's summer. Golfers. It's hot every day.
Well, yeah, but it usually rains every day. That's great. Hey, QB, I'm wondering if you've got your Oklahoma itinerary all locked up and ready to go. Central Oklahoma is the place to go to now, man. I mean, you've got baseball playing in Stillwater. You've got softball playing in OKC. It's an easy trip to Atlanta and then across on a Delta jet, and boom, you are in the middle of the hotbed of the postseason for softball and baseball. And QB, Oklahoma State is just a great little program that Kenny Gajewski has created, and the former Gator assistant coach, and now he's going to play his mentor, protege in the I'm sorry, no, that's Nebraska. That's Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right?
Oklahoma State with Kenny Gajewski is playing Tim Walton.
Tim Walton, right? Okay, I'm getting my Midwest mixed up. Ben Sass, who is your president here at University of Florida, he's going to get to watch the school where he basically came from play the Gator baseball team. Okay, now I'm all together. And that Nebraska baseball team, QB, that Nebraska baseball team, they won the Big Ten championship tournament, right? And they're a very good team. That regional is probably the most interesting, if you ask me. I think it's going to be a fantastic regional with that Nebraska team and Florida Gators. I think it's going to be tremendous.
Yeah, Nebraska's starting a pitcher who's 9-0, but the people I've talked to say he's a decent pitcher, but he's not SEC caliber pitching.
But Oklahoma State's a good team too. And
they're a very good team.
They're the Big 12 tournament champions, I believe. So we've got a lot of pedigree there in a lot of success getting together in one region. That's a tough regional for the Gators, QB.
I think it's a great regional for them because they're playing in a small ballpark. We're a 2-3 run homer type team. We're not a great hitting team for average. We rely on the Earl Weaver, the 3-run homers, quite a bit.
Yes.
It's better than going to Tallahassee, who you see every year.
Right.
These are teams you never see. So I'm excited for them. We'll see what happens.
What a place to be, though, QB. We got to be ever mindful of those poor folks in the Midwest who have suffered through these ravaging tornadoes. It's been god-awful. And, this is that time of year in Oklahoma for sure. I lived through it, going to watch the Gator softball team and, in OKC in many prior summers. And but this is an exciting time. That Gator softball team, man, I was watching that Baylor game. I know this is Wednesday, but this is the first time I've had a chance to talk about it because we didn't come on Monday. And I know you were nervous, QB. I know you were nervous. You were very nervous.
Nervous about what?
About the softball team. You were really nervous.
I was not nervous at all. I was there, JC.
I know, but you were like biting your fingernails and fidgety and really you were.
No, I don't get nervous about anything. I had no doubt that they would win on Sunday. It just bad things happened to them.
They won. I don't think bad things. I think that winning is all you're trying to do there.
Yeah, advance and move on. And now we'll see what happens in OKC. A lot of good teams out there. You got to get some breaks once you're out there. I still think Oklahoma's the team to beat. Texas is the 1 seed, but they're extremely fortunate that they're there. Yes. They could have lost. They should have lost all 3 games. Obviously they only lost one of them, but anyway.
Well, they're tough though. They're good, and I think it sets up for a very exciting tournament. 8 teams. Florida. Yeah, you're right. I was shocked to see Alabama beat Tennessee, to tell you the truth. This is not a team that had a lot of success in the regular season, and they somehow
that game shouldn't even gone to game 3. I don't know if you saw it, but I watched a lot of softball. Right. Game 1, routine ground ball to second base. In the bottom of the 7th. Girl in her transition from fielding it to throwing it, bobbles it. Game's over. Yeah. But nope. They hit a 2 or 3 run homer. I think it went into extras or whatever. So
that's game Tim 1.
Tim says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melon Law, quote, "They just can't win the big one." Gator Bait author. He's referring to Buddy. Everybody's all over Buddy. Everybody's all over.
I know Buddy's rooting for the Gator softball team. Why would they be all over that poor man?
Well, because Buddy doesn't think it's an elite program.
Oh, we're still talking about that.
It was a big subject yesterday. Big topic.
Poor Buddy. Give him a break. He's just telling you what he thinks. It's all right.
No, I mean he has his right, but he's way off base, because when you go to the World Series over 60% of the time your coach has been here, and you've played for 5 national titles in 20 years and you won 2, that to me is elite. So that's just my definition. I guess it's not for some other people.
I mean, listen, it's going to be a great tournament, but the SEC is a great conference for baseball and softball, but Oklahoma is just clearly the trendsetter. They're the gold standard in softball, but we'll see what happens. Anything's possible. Anything can happen, but you're right. You have to like the home team's chances, and they literally are the home team. So they sleep in their own beds.
A couple of YouTubers here. Michael, brought to you by Quality Diploma, says, "I want Tim to get revenge on the Stanford debacle last year. Hopefully the ump is not called." Well, Stanford, if we win, we play the winner of Stanford and Texas. Stanford's pitcher is ridiculous. Justice says Tennessee's pitcher was obnoxious, reminded him of the baseball team 2 years ago. Let me tell you something. She's like 6'2". I was watching her pitch. She's the pitcher of the year in the conference. Her season's over, but she was throwing 75 to 77 miles an hour. I thought it was a misprint. So I kept watching the little thing up there after every pitch, and it was anywhere between 74 and 77, which most girls pitch from 66 to 69. If they hit 70, it's like, whoa, this girl was throwing straight gas.
Yeah, and she gets to watch Alabama play in the College World Series.
Exactly.
That's right.
All right. So, JC, just recapping, we'll get to our Peachland Dental picks for this week, but recapping last week at the Colonial, which was a harder golf course than the damn PGA Championship Valhalla. I mean, it's very simple, people. Tight fairways and rough destroys the PGA Tour player. Not destroy them, but
challenges.
My highest finisher was Keegan Bradley, who I think was in the top 5, had a good weekend. And then you had Scheffler, who came in second again. Had a bad second day, I guess, or was it his third day? I can't remember. One day he had a terrible day. He shot like 2 over, 3 over. But
I think it was his third day, because the second day I want to say he was 7 under. But regardless, he finished his second. Very happy for Davis Riley. Roll Tide. And
you didn't even know a few years ago who Davis Riley was.
QB, I did know about that.
No, I asked you, and you had no idea who Davis Riley was.
Isn't he the guy? Wasn't he the amateur that won on tour this year?
No.
Who was that?
No, that kid's still an amateur.
He is? Okay.
Yeah. Don't come in here with your swinging elephant shirts and all that stuff when you don't know a damn thing about the program. Speaking of that, the Gator golf team, we gave a shout out to them yesterday. Just came up short. They had the 3 easiest holes. All they had to do was make pars. We made bogeys and doubles, and it cost us. I was texting with JC and Dudley. They were devastated. I said, look, I get it. They'll be back. But what I didn't understand, and I'm going to find out, I'm going to ask them this.
Okay.
This golf tournament was held in California.
Carlsbad.
The host team.
Yeah.
Do you know who the host team was?
It was like it was a different school from a different place.
It was the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah.
On every flag,
the
Horns logo was there, and I just like, this makes absolutely no freaking sense.
Well, yeah, I guess they just want to play this in a tournament where at a place that's ritzy and there's never going to be a weather issue, and they played hard.
But Jesse, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Hard.
Well, it's just, it's kind of like you're talking about geography. Why would a team from Texas host a golf tournament that's out there in California? Is that not what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about. But because in the NCAA tournament, when you go to these different sites, the court has the logo of the host school, which when they play in Omaha, Nebraska, they got the Blue Jay sitting down there because Creighton is the host. Okay.
Right.
But we're talking about the state of Texas, which everybody knows where that is. And the damn golf tournament is in the state of California. I don't understand. I'm gonna have to ask JC.
I'm just trying to figure out why it was out there at the.
It's there for the next 3 years.
Well, it must be a great place, and they must love it. And I'll tell you, it played damn hard for those kids. But that's good. I think that's really brings out the challenge. Listen, Florida has a lot to be proud of, coming off a national championship with a team that's got a lot of young golfers to advance through regionals to the NCAA finals. It's a hell of a program, man. It's 2 years in a row. You're going to go out there and play at the NCAA tournament with a different lineup in the second year after a national title. It's great stuff. And JC needs to be paid more. I would pay him more money. Get him more money.
They better. Asa says on Facebook Live, John Dubois was 300 the last day, went over for the tournament, while Parker Bell was 16 over. Yeah, Parker Bell did have a great week. Parker Bell will be playing in the U.S. Open here
he qualified
2 weeks.
Yeah,
so, and it's golf. That is golf.
Yeah, it's golf. JC Deacon gets more with less, I think, than just about any coach in America, when you consider that the facility doesn't have the space or the room for these kids to practice the way other schools get to practice. And so he gets more out of less than anybody in America. Write that man a check, keep him around, and build him a damn golf course so those kids can practice and play on their home turf. And if that happens, he'll be around forever. And I think
you Google if you Google Alabama's facility they're building, if you look at Tennessee's golf facility, the Gators are hoping to be building one.
I hope so.
Here shortly.
That's right.
Let's hope.
You build football stadiums, you can build golf courses. So
golf courses are cheaper.
Lots cheaper. Just go buy some land. We got lots of it out here in West Alachua County.
You got to get your silly county folks to let us dig dirt and trim trees
or cut them damn things down. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, real quick. Tony sent me the story. I have to read this another time about. He said that. Let me find where it was. He says they sent me the story on this. So they want to make that course in California like Omaha for the College World Series. I get that. For a long time, Greyhawk out there at Scottsdale was the place that, your goal as a golf team is we want to go to Greyhawk. Baseball, we want to go to Omaha. Tim Walton and the girls have up there OKC's their number one goal.
Yes.
Okay. I get that they want to go out to Carlsbad.
Sure.
But what I don't get is why the damn Texas logo's on all the flags. They're the host school. That's what somebody's got to explain to me.
Okay. Well, you stay up at night worried about that, QB.
Stuff like that is just is interesting to me.
It irritates you.
All right, so JC, I'll touch more on it with Mike Morgan, but the SEC meetings are going on in Destin right now.
Right.
One of the big topics was, I don't know if this is the NCAA or the SEC, but I know every college football coach was against it. They were trying to get rid of walk-ons. I was thinking about this the other day. You can't have a football team without your walk-ons. They're a huge part of your program. But I was thinking about, they're getting ready to supposedly you're gonna have $20 million to dish out, however you want to dish it out, whatever sports. I think a lot of these non-revenue sports are gonna go away. I hate to say it, but I think they're gonna be gone.
I think you're right.
But if you're going to, these guys are getting paid now. There is no more student athlete. That damn word student athlete, done, in my opinion. Okay. Why now do you need 85 scholarships? Okay. Why not go to the NFL model, 53-man rosters? Then you can have as many walk-ons as you want as your practice squad, because, there's only about 22 to there. Well, let me say this. There's about 30 players that dress out on a Saturday afternoon that play in the game. On average, 30. You dress 70 something for a SEC game, but only about 30 of them actually walk on between the white lines and tackle somebody or get hit or have an actual play in the game. I don't know. I just started thinking about that. I'm like, why waste money now on all these scholarships?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I can just say that, I think we're going to have some sort of collective bargaining at some point, and almost we're going to get to a point where they just become employees. And I don't know if that's right or wrong or good or bad, but it's just it's one of those things. Let me touch on one thing, QB, and I'll let you get with Mike. I think Mike would be able to give you a little bit more insight on some of those things you just brought up. But again, I was watching that silly Miami Hurricanes podcast yesterday.
Oh, you love that show.
Well, it just pops up on my screen. I don't know how it works. I don't really like it, but then I don't turn it off. And this guy is talking about the University of Florida with their intent to defraud James. He truly believes that the University of Florida is in serious trouble on this
Zero.
And I'm like, well, serious trouble? How, dude? I mean,
they're in no trouble at all.
It's a financial issue. And he's talking about it being a fraudulent issue where there's actual like a crime being committed. I mean, they're going crazy down there talking about this. And then this other guy says they're winning 11 games. I mean, they live in delusional world down there in Miami. So I tell you, folks, this Florida-Miami game, it's going to really get hyped up hard when we get to August, which I know is just, 2 full months away. But goodness gracious, they are talking about it like the Gators are a bunch of criminals up here. And Billy Napier's in big trouble, and they're going to get – I mean, this guy, Brian, I think his name was Brian Walker on the Canes podcast.
I think absolutely nothing happens in this lawsuit. Zero.
Well, he says the intent to defraud is just as bad as fraud. And Hugh Hathcock and this Marcus guy, Walker, they just really screwed it up. And I know you dismiss it, but God, that's what they're talking about down there.
Yeah, well, that's Miami. That's Miami for you. I'm not hearing it anywhere else. Tim wants to know, JC, tell us what the non-revenue sports are.
Well, I think track and field is an issue with revenue.
Soccer, lacrosse.
I think certainly lacrosse is one of those. I would also say
gymnastics. They may charge for gymnastics now.
But golf is in that equation. I'm not sure if volleyball is self-sustaining. I'm not even sure if women's basketball is. So you look at sports like that, spring sports for the most part, but certainly lacrosse, who just got done playing in a Final Four. And by the way, Northwestern choked against Boston College. They were winning 6-0 and lost by a goal. But at any rate, lacrosse and sports like that are going to have, issues with revenue just because you can't draw 10, 15,000 people to those things.
Yeah. All right. J&J Trucking on YouTube, brought to you by Quad Plum, says, QB, I heard Billy wants 140 guys on his team at all times. Have you heard anything? He has about 140. About 120 is about the normal. You usually have about 40 walk-ons to 85 scholarship. That's normal. And then you need them all. But I just think in today's world, everything is changing. It's not college sports anymore. It's not student athletes. Go to the NFL model.
Well,
it'll save you money. It'll save you money.
Do they still have to go to class?
I mean, they're supposed to, but
I think everybody on that.
If you were banking 50 to 60,000 a month, would you be going to class, JC?
Well, listen, I do whatever the rules say I have to do, but I think some of those football players.
I'd show up at class. I don't know how much I would do.
Well, you better listen, QB. You better listen to your lecturer. I don't know, man. It's true. I
just wait till my tutors came along and helped.
Yeah, well, it's nuts. But they want a part of. They want some of those billions, and the courts are letting them have it, and that's the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it
goes. Yes, Tim says, watch out for Title IX. Look, Title IX is Title IX, but I'm telling you,
I'm more worried
it does not look good for the non-revenue sports in the future, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Chris on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum, says, any thoughts on Lagway's Gatorade commercial that aired last night? Any idea how much that's bringing him NIL-wise or what that does for future QB recruiting? Did you have finally tapping into Gatorade ties? I don't think so. He was the Gatorade National Player of the Year. I feel like if he was playing at Duke, he would still probably be in that commercial. I don't think Gatorade has any ties to the University of Florida anymore, if I'm not mistaken. It's been sold.
Yeah.
Is that right, JC?
Yes, PepsiCo. PepsiCo is the company of Gatorade. QB, a lot of what these students make, or these athletes, what they make, a lot of it also comes from their own ambition. For instance, Olivia Dunn, the gymnast at LSU,
who hardly ever plays.
Right, but she became a competes. She became an overnight sensation just because of social media and people
and what she looks
her.
Like.
Of course, and she was part of a national championship team, and now she's all into this pitcher who came from LSU, Paul Skeens. We all remember him. He pitches for the Pirates. He's he's been a real jolt for the Pirates organization. He's done tremendous things. And she's all over the place. So a lot of what these kids make, a lot of times just comes from what they can do, too, to create more revenue on their part. You have to give Olivia Dunn a lot of credit. People like that. It's out there if they want it, but it's also out there if they just show up. And that's what we're seeing now with college athletics. And that's what this court case is about. But there's still, nothing has been totally finalized last night. I think Nick Saban said this. Nothing has been completely finalized as to exactly what's going to happen or how much you're going to get. It's still working its way through the system, but it is going to change. And, some of these conferences and some of these schools, there's going to be consolidation. And you're going to see the Fox TV network conference and the ESPN TV network conference. It's going to be like the AFC QB and the NFC. That's how I feel football is going to end up for some reason.
Yeah. Chris in Cottondale on the Titan our text line says, Shane, I am in total agreement. I agree. Let's go to 60 to 65 Schollies and the rest are walk-ons or practice squad players. Even if we have 85, I would use the 65, put my money in those kids. And if I sign kids, they would play at least on special teams. Just makes sense to me where NIL has taken the game too. Yeah. Real quick, JC, before we get you out of here, this day in sports brought to you by CampusUSA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life at CampusUSA Credit Union. This day in 1980, where'd it go? In 1980, did you know this, JC?
44 years ago.
Who won the NBA Rookie of the Year in 1980? I'm gonna give you one guy played at Michigan State, one guy played at Indiana State.
I'll go with the guy that played at Michigan State.
Wrong. Larry Bird beat out Magic Johnson for NBA Rookie of the Year in 1980. Okay,
wow, I was wrong. Well, I was gonna guess one of those two. I was gonna definitely guess one of those two. Listen, this is a great time. This is where I basically end the sports year when we get to these World Series and these postseasons for these baseball and softball teams. And I love watching college baseball playoffs, postseason, and the college softball World Series. If you ever want to watch, so we talk about players getting paid and compensated, but if you truly want to watch athletes play for just the absolute thrill of it, for just trying to win something and make it a memory that'll last a lifetime. I'm not saying they all don't do that, but women's softball is one of those sports where these girls, this is it for them. I mean, after softball's over in college.
Well, there's a few of them that go play pro. Skylar Wallace is going to play pro, but they don't make much money.
I'll give you that. But really, their life goes a different direction after softball for the vast majority of these girls. And these College World Series games are just absolutely spectacular. I just love watching this stuff. And you've been banned from OKC, QB, but I could.
I'm not banned. I had no bearing on the outcome of those games, but I'm not going back.
Why? Why? Don't you like going? You didn't like going?
I do, but here's the problem. When you go, you don't know how long you're going to be there.
Yes.
That is the problem.
Same with baseball. I blew my TV 20 per diem. In the first 2 days, I went in 90s with the Gator baseball team and Andy Lopez. And damn if they weren't there for over a week and I had to use credit cards. So it's true. It's true. That's another story. But it's true.
JC, real quick, we got to do I forgot we got to do our Peachland Dental picks. Sure. I'm going to go
Where's
first.
Mike? All right.
Mike's waiting to come on. I'm going to take Tom.
I want to hear Mike's story about the Destin meetings. He's got insight there. I want to hear what he's got to say about.
I'm going to take Tommy Fleetwood.
Okay, we're doing golf. All right, Tommy Fleetwood. What? He's got no chance to win over here. All right, what?
He's in Canada. It's in Canada.
Oh well, that might be okay. Give me Sam Burns.
Sam Burns. I'm going to take Tom Kim.
All right, I'm going to take Taylor Pendrith, the Canadian.
Oh, you're taking a Canadian.
You're damn right.
I'm going to take Shane Lowry.
And I'm going to go with, to finish it off, give me Corey Connors, another Canadian.
All right, we get one more pick, and I'm taking Sahith Theegala.
And I'm going to get Adam Hadwin, another Canadian.
Dang, you're going all Canadian.
The red flag.
You got the whole Maple Leaf team.
They won't win the Stanley Cup because Dallas is going to beat the Edmonton Oilers, but they could win their golf tournament. So this is their next.
That's JC. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. Those were our Peachland Dental golf picks. We're going to take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll be joined by Mike Morgan from the SEC Network. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with CampusUSA Credit Union.
Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Our gridiron sponsors are UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker Sporting Goods. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. We're going to go back to the Titan MR hotline courtesy of Comfort Temp. This dude's brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. He is Mike Morgan from the SEC Network. Good morning, Mike. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well, Shane. How are you?
Pretty good. Let's start with college baseball.
Let's do it.
This is a very fun time. The Gators are in. Once they got over 500, last week a lot of people were like, well, we were still not sure with their strength of schedule, playing for the national title last year. the brand, and Jack Caglione, there was no way in hell they were getting left out, in my opinion.
Well, you were consistent on that, and you were obviously right. And I shared that sentiment. I threw out a number on JC and Morgan and another show. By the way, we had Vern Lundquist on for 58 minutes last week, and
I love Vern.
Everybody loves Vern. Shane, I'm telling you, if you don't listen to us for any other thing, we talk college football year round on that show, and JC and I did our normal opening segment. I don't plug it up a ton, but I'll just tell you've got a very knowledgeable and passionate audience that listens to your show. It's a free show, just like this is. JC and Morgan, we get a lot of guests on. We've had you on, of course. We had Vern on, and Vern doesn't do a lot of interviews. I just happen to know Vern because we won an award the same year, and we're at the same building in Salisbury, North Carolina, years ago, and we kept in touch. But he was phenomenal. You being a golf guy too. Think about 40 years of calling the Masters. We talked about that. We talked about SEC on CBS, everything.
This was his last year in Augusta too.
That's
I
right.
believe, if I remember correctly.
Well, he's retired now. Period. Like he's not doing.
So he's fully retired.
Done. Him and his wife are up there in Colorado and enjoying the good life. But 17 years of the voice of the SEC on CBS, and so many incredible memories. And that coincided with the Gators' great run. In fact, he mentioned. I said, "Who's your favorite athlete during that time?" He said, "Tim Tebow." He said, that's my favorite athlete that I covered in the SEC. And, of course, he was the voice of so many signature Gator wins during that time under Urban. So it's worth a listen if you're a Gator fan. I just figured I'd wedge that in there. But on the baseball front, I ran a stat off to you and on that show and some others about, and over the last 15 years or so, SEC teams that were 13-17 in conference, a la Florida, a la South Carolina, Vandy, LSU, and had a top 30 RPI. Well, we know Florida had that thanks to the number one strength of schedule. Every one of them got in the tournament. Every one. And so I was curious to see whether or not that was going to hold up. And sure enough, it did. I just think that the Caglione factor, if we're being real about it, just like the college football committee, just like the NCAA basketball committee, it's not robots determining this thing. There are human beings in that room, and they know what a great story is. Caglione's a great story. They know Gary Gilmore of Coastal Carolina is a great story. Coastal Carolina got in with not a very good resume. I think if they just had robots spit it out like the old BCS, Coastal Carolina would not have gotten in. And it helps when your athletic director is the chairman of the committee. And so choices like that are choices made. Human beings that follow the sport know the SEC, and this is not me being an SEC homer. I don't need to carry the torch. It just is what it is. The league is so much better than every other league top to bottom. Now, there are teams that are better individually. Like I could easily see a non-SEC team winning it. It's possible. Well, it's absolutely possible. Seen it happen before, whether it's an Oregon State or one of the West Coast teams that we tend to forget about. By the way, rest in peace, Pac-12 baseball. But no, I think Florida got exactly what it deserved to get in, but as a 3 seed on the road. And kudos to the committee. I hate when we just had the same old matchups: Florida State, South Carolina, Clemson, Georgia Tech. Baseball is not you were talking about revenues with JC earlier. Baseball, a lot of programs do lose money, but they don't lose a lot of money, and some actually turn a profit. This ain't women's basketball where a Final Four team loses $8 million. This is baseball where they travel by bus normally, not charter flights. They don't lose a ton of money. They can afford to travel. And so Florida going to Stillwater, that's a fresh matchup. Like, that's great. That's what's more what you want to see. I want to see matchups that we didn't already see in the regular season. Could Florida win it? Absolutely. Here's what I'll say about every SEC team. And we all know, we've talked about it, this is not a great Florida team. You are what you are at this point, but you can get hot at the right time. Every SEC team is just relieved to not have to go to another SEC venue for 3 days over a weekend and have screaming fans and just – it just wears you down. So to be able to go to an ACC or a Big 12 venue, with all due respect to those conferences and teams, it's a relief. And I promise you, those teams that are hosting that are not in the SEC, the moment they see an SEC team as a 2 or 3 seed, they go, oh, bleep. Now we got to face this crap. This is not exactly a reward.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I wanted to ask you, so I think it was 2, maybe 3 years ago, Ole Miss was the last team to get in. They got hot. They won the national title.
Yeah.
LSU was terrible during the year. They played really well in Hoover. Is there a team kind of under the radar out of the Southeastern Conference? And it could be Florida. Now, I don't think our pitching and we rely too much on the home run ball, but is there a team that could surprise out of the conference that could make a run that didn't have a great regular season?
That's a great question. I mean, honestly, I think you hit on the team that it could be theoretically, and that's LSU. If you want to make kind of an Ole Miss a few years ago comp, that might be the closest one. Now, I don't know if they have the same pitching that Ole Miss team did either. Look, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think Florida's built for that deep of a run. You know, it's a great story that they barely got in. Do I think they could win a Stillwater Regional? Yeah, I think it's possible. Do I think they have the roster to go the distance and win a national championship? I don't see that out of this roster. I honestly don't. And I don't know if I see it, quite frankly, out of any of the 13 and 17 teams from the SEC. I just think the top teams this year are so good. I will say this. The pitching this year, there's a lot of things going on. And I've talked to a number of people, pitching coaches, umpires that I know, that all agree. There was a SEC tournament record hit for home runs. The home run rate this year is off the charts, record setting. And I can't tell you how many off the top of my head, but it was a lot. Staff ERAs on SEC staffs that were over 7 in conference play. Not over 3, not over 4, not over 5, 7. That's not SEC caliber pitching. I think pitching, number one, is a little bit down this year. You look at the projected first round from Kylie McDaniel, one guy, Hagen Smith of Arkansas, nobody else in the SEC. That's an aberration. That doesn't happen. Number two, I truly believe, based on the conversations that I've had and just watching balls jump off the bat, I think there's something a little bit different either with the bat or the ball or both. I think there's something that's just a little bit. I've had coaches tell me, like, Mike, we're watching batting practice and seeing balls just leave the yard that never would leave the yard before. Something is just different this year. So look for that in the postseason. You're going to see record scores, records amount of home runs, and I don't think it's going to be the same amount of dominating pitching. Like, Hagen Smith's great, but you don't have a number of Paul Skeens like you normally do out of the SEC this year.
Yeah, good point. Live a healthier lifestyle with our bold, flavorful smoothies and our amazing food. Tropical smoothie. When you eat better, you feel better. We got Mike Morgan on the Titanmore hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp and Campus USA Credit Union. Conyer and Ron on YouTube says, will the Gator baseball team travel to OKC for a Gator softball game while out in Oklahoma? No. Their schedule, it doesn't coincide. Plus, they wouldn't have anywhere to go. This Oklahoma, if you've ever been to the College World Series in Oklahoma City, this place is sold out, standing room only. I mean, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're worried about winning games over there in Stillwater.
That's right.
Yeah. Mike, let's switch gears a little bit. SEC meetings are going on in Destin right now. Anything so far come out that intrigued you? Anything said, from the coaches or what have you?
Well, let's back up, over the last couple of weeks, what's come out, which is, earth-shattering in terms of the college football model and college athletics model. I mean, we're basically, as you've mentioned a number of times, this is now professional sports, okay? We have free agency via the portal. We have salaries via NIL, and now we have salaries via it's true revenue sharing. We're taking that TV money and we're saying, okay, 20% of that goes to the college football athletes. Now, how they divvy that up from there is a whole other story. And people say, Title IX. Well, Title IX was designed so, for example, you can't have the men's basketball team taking charter flights and staying in 4-star hotels and then have the women doing a 10-hour bus ride and staying at a Days Inn. That's what Title IX was about in a lot of ways. It was, you're not just going to treat women's sports like a redheaded stepchild. And you know what? Title IX accomplished that, and kudos to that. I mean, the women that compete at the highest levels in the given sports, they deserve the same accommodations as the men. However, just like in the real world, the all-star small forward for the WNBA doesn't make as much as LeBron James because there's just not the same market. That TV deal for football there's no women's sport that even comes close to comparing to that. So I don't buy this. Well, if the starting quarterback makes $1.5 million, well, then that means the starting lacrosse player has to make something. No, that's not what Title IX is. You might be afraid of a lawsuit and cave into something like that, but I just don't see that. And I'm a proponent of women's sports. My wife was a scholarship athlete, but that's ridiculous. And anybody with common sense, I think, would point that out. But I do think what they're talking about in Destin, where all this kind of comes into where they are now, is that you've got Greg Sankey, the most powerful man in college athletics. And it's like E.F. Hutton. When he talks, everybody listens. And when Greg Sankey says in front of a room full of people, reporters and athletic directors, we're not exactly sure how this is going to work. We don't have all the answers. That tells me a couple of things. First off, Congress is not going to solve this riddle. It's an election year, and you're not going to get Democrats and Republicans to vote on anything in agreement with one another. So now, how do you get this thing solved without the help of a third party? And that's where the rub is. So, like, the SEC always kind of leads the way, and now the Big Ten is kind of like big brother or little brother, whatever you want to call it, 1A, 1B. But those two leagues and their leadership can only do so much. They don't have the complete autonomy to set the scale. Like, okay, here's how it's going to go. We're going to do this. This is how much money goes to football players. This is how much money goes to basketball players. This is how we're going to share this and that. We still have lawsuits pending. This thing is far from over. So in a year where, if you remember last year, Shane, 12 months ago, the number one topic of conversation was 8-game SEC schedule or 9-game SEC schedule. And that's what us as fans, we really care about the most. We don't want to hear about all this legal mumbo jumbo. But Commissioner Sankey said, I got to tell you something. We can't talk about 8-9 game schedule right now. It's going to be 8 for minimum 2 more years, this year and the following year. And after that, we'll kick that can down the road and figure it out. But for the time being, we have to figure out how the hell college football is going to be run and how this whole wild, wild west thing is going to make any sense. And I don't think they have all the answers, nor do they have all the power to implement the answers that they actually have.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard me talking to JC. I know they were talking about, should they get rid of walk-ons, which I think is ridiculous because you got to have walk-ons.
Right.
And I'm a huge fan of walk-ons. But do you think they should reduce it's basically pro football now. And we're talking football. I mean, why do you need 85 scholarships?
Yeah.
Now, because the development of Mike Morgan coming as a freshman and getting him for 3 more years, that ain't happening anymore. Right. So why not go down to 60 or 53, kind of like the NFL? Then you have your walk-on program. I mean, do you think that's even a possibility, or am I crazy to think that?
Well, here's where we're headed. It's not going to be a scholarship number. For example, it's not going to be 85 for football, 13 for men's basketball, 15 for women's basketball, and the ludicrous 11.7 for baseball. It's going to be roster limits. So, for example, they could just say, okay, the cap is 100 for football, okay? And then you can decide, you can do that however you want. You could do 100 full ride scholarships. You could keep it at 85 and have 15 preferred walk-ons. You could go back to 75 scholarships and do 25 walk-ons. I mean, I'm just throwing out theoretical numbers, but the bigger number here is no longer going to be scholarship limit. They're not going to have scholarship limits. They're going to have roster size limits. And at that point, if you're a big-time college football program like Florida is, you're obviously going to have the maximum. Just about every SEC team is going to have whatever the maximum number is. So let's just say it's 100. Well, then you're probably going to give, you're going to maybe have 85 guaranteed. you allow some walk-ons, and then if they earn their stripes, and you turn them into a full rider, like a Chris Doering type of story, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that's the key number now. It's no longer going to be the scholarship limit, Shane. It's going to be the roster size limit, and that's for all sports. That actually helps baseball, because for baseball, you only have had 11.7, which is a Title IX casualty. Now, if they set the roster limit, let's just say at, I don't know, 20, well, then you could give 20 full ride scholarships theoretically, whether it's through your revenue sharing or through your NIL, what have you. You no longer have to play this silly game where he gets books and tuition and he gets half a scholarship. No. The roster limit is all that matters from this point forward.
All right, so this is a very long text. I'm going to try to paraphrase from Roger. It's regarding the so-called $20 million that is supposed to have each institution is supposed to pay out to their players now.
Right.
He wants to know, is that for $20 million for each individual Power 4 school now? What about the Troys and Southern Misses of the world?
They get thoroughly screwed. First off, they don't have $20 million to give. So no, they're not going to approach that number at all. The Power 4, and quite honestly, Shane, I don't know if every Power 4 school is going to be able to do that. I mean, is Wake Forest going to come up with $20 million between the seat cushions? I don't know. Is Indiana football gonna have that? I mean, there's just some schools out there that I think are going to struggle find this whole notion. I've been to, I don't know, over 100 college campuses. This whole notion that everybody enjoys the life of like the Floridas, the Alabamas, the LSUs. And as we know, Florida not that long ago was way behind in facilities. This whole notion that everybody is just swimming in cash, that's a fallacy. That's not true. There's a lot of athletic departments, and you're going to start seeing people get fired. And I know your average person listening doesn't care about, for example, an associate sports information director making $85,000 a year. But those people help us when we're broadcasting, and those people have wives and children. They're going to lose their jobs. Smaller sports are going to get canceled. Like there's going to be repercussions to all of this. And football, they're never going to mess with the golden cow or the cash cow. Football and men's basketball, they're going to be just fine. But there are going to be casualties with all this, because you now, even though the TV money has gotten greater, you now are taking $20 million off the top to just shell out in salaries, even though they don't want to call them employees. And I have my own theories on why they don't want to do that. There's going to be repercussions of that. But yeah, if you're a Group 5 school, the gap of Power 4 resources versus Group 5 resources, it is now a chasm. It is monster size, not to mention all your, every MAC school like has one guy that's truly capable of playing in the SEC right now. Yeah, they're going to be plucked in the portal faster than you can turn your head. So even when you get that 2-star diamond in the rough recruit, he's going to be gone the year later, and you can't afford to keep him anyway. So we now basically, I've said this before, Group 5 is the new 1AA football. It's really, it's not the same. It's not FBS. It's the new 1AA, and 1AA is basically like Division II at this point.
Well, I'm hoping, I know there was talks a couple of months ago about the Group of 5 having their own like playoff situation.
Would love that.
Which I think would be outstanding.
Absolutely.
They can still play the big boys in the regular season, get a paycheck. Sure. But I think they need to have their own title. Silverback Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. A few more minutes with Mike Morgan here on the Titan MR hotline. I want to get your thoughts. Obviously, I don't think we had you on since the lawsuit has come out against Coach Napier.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's total just BS, ridiculous. What are your thoughts on
it? First off, the kid's father, this is like Cam Newton's dad on steroids, right? Like, I mean, you and we see Bill for like 5 years, but anytime you have that, like it is a startling experience. But in terms of people, you and JC were talking about like the Miami show, and I'm not familiar with the show, and nor am I going to spend 2 seconds listening to it. But Florida has nothing to worry about. Florida's not even in the lawsuit. This is they're going after the head coach, and it's a good way to make headlines. And there's obviously some bad blood there. And if the kid's that good, why is he going to Georgia so he can sit on the bench and pick splinters out of his rear end for the next couple of years? I'm not even sure if he's going to be a player in 2025. They got some pretty good players behind Carson Beck right now. So I don't think much comes out of it. It's a headline grabber because we're not used to former players suing their coach over cash payments for play. I mean, so it has all the like juicy things that are clickbait, and you wanted a headline if you're a national beat reporter for college football. But I think the bigger story is if Florida goes 5-1, everybody is all happy, and they could care less about this lawsuit. If they go 1-5 or 2-3, then it's like, you know what? On top of everything else, you got the lawsuit. You'll find ways to blame it on Billy if you're an unhappy Florida fan with the way this team starts off in 2024.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it goes away. It's no big deal, but it will become a big deal if we can't win any football games.
Everything becomes a big deal when you're not winning, Shane. You know that. Yeah. It's the fault of everything. Everything is wrong. Everybody needs to get fired. The uniforms are wrong. The band is wrong. Everything is just off when you're losing. And when you're winning, everybody turns a blind eye to all that other ancillary stuff and distractions. All you care about is showing that you can beat Miami and that pivotal week 0 game, get off to a good start, because from at Tennessee on, that part of the schedule is brutal. I don't think the first half, quite honestly, is much tougher than any other SEC team. It's the second half where I'm like, whoa, if you ain't good, you're going to get humbled a lot in those final 6-7 games.
Yeah. All right, last text here before we get you out of here. This is from Doug. It's an NBA question. Wanted your thoughts on Bronny James.
My thoughts on Bronny James is if his last name wasn't James, we would never hear about him nor care about him. I talked to the people that evaluate those kids out of high school. He is nothing, overly special. And this whole
Bronny James wouldn't even play for the Gators.
No, not this past year. Heck no. Maybe coming off probation under Norm Sloan or something. No, he wouldn't play for that last year's Florida team. He's an average player. He's like a 6'1" guard who's not great at any one particular thing, but because he's LeBron's son, he's ripping off headlines here, there, and everywhere. But there's some really good players coming out of the draft. He ain't one of them.
No, not at all. Mike, good stuff as always. Let everybody know again how they can listen to your podcast.
Yeah, JC and Morgan. It's on YouTube. So, I mean, if you can put up with seeing our faces, which is no treat, but Vern is on. We got Vern to actually go on a Zoom call. He's not the most technically efficient guy, but he was on with us, so you can see him. You can see some of the emotion in his face when he's talking about those great calls on SEC football or the Masters. He was the voice of the Dallas Cowboys for like 15 years. That was where he got his big break. So, I mean, he was at the Ice Bowl. He was at the Hail Mary game to Drew Pearson. I mean, it's just a magnificent career. But it's on YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, everything you could Facebook, Twitter, anything you can think of. And we do it each and every week. We'll get you back on there for sure. Want to get your thoughts on a number of things, Florida football-wise, and we're starting to expand to shows. In fact, we might even have this particular show as part of the network, because I think this show, you guys do an outstanding job, and it keeps growing and growing.
Well, have a great weekend, my man. Appreciate your time.
You got it.
We'll talk to you next week. That's
Mike Morgan
from the SEC Network. Join us on the Titan Number hotline. Comfort Tip Heating and Air is looking for an enthusiastic, motivated comfort specialist to join our team. $1,000 sign-on bonus for 90 days. Awesome benefits and the opportunity to grow with the winning team. Apply today at ComfortTemp.com. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Hope you enjoyed today's program. We'll be back here tomorrow. Same place, same time. Take care, folks.